I chased Lu Jingchen for 3 years, spending every one of those years as a stand-in for his ex. He called me Wan Wan. I answered. He brought me to meet his parents. I played the part. He called me in the middle of the night. I went. Everyone said I was pathetic. I accepted it. Then one night, drunk out of his mind, he pinned me to the couch and kissed me. Dian hard, Dian, and when he came up for air, he whispered, Wan Wan, you finally came back. I smiled, took off the necklace, and walked away. I was done. My mother said, if you can't land him, come home for a blind date. The man who walked through that door turned out to be Lu Jingzhen's arch-Jane rival. The 3rd year of chasing Lu Jingzhen, he got drunk and pinned me to the couch and kissed me. Kissed me like he was starving. When it was over, he buried his face in my neck, his voice slurred. Wanwen, you finally came back. Wanwen, his ex-girlfriend's name. Not mine. My name is Sunian. 3 years ago, Lu Jingchen's ex, Jiang Wan, left the country. He was falling. Down, drunk, and I went to pick him up. He looked up at me, stared for a long time. Wanwen? I bore a passing resemblance to Jiang Wan. Same oval face, same shape to the brows and eyes. That night, I didn't correct him. I never did after that, either. Not because I was afraid to, because I didn't want to. I was in love with him, had been since college. I'd chased him for 3 solid years, standing in his ex's spot for 3 solid years. He called me Wan Wan. I answered. He brought me home to meet his parents. I smiled and played along. He called at midnight. I never said no. For his birthday, I'd start preparing a month in advance. When he traveled for business, I'd pack his suitcase and leave it by the door. When he drank too much at dinners, no matter the hour, I was there. Once, he had a last 10-minute business dinner that fell on my birthday. I canceled my restaurant reservation, put on a nice dress, and went to be his arm candy. The entire evening, he held my hand, calling me Wan Wan in front of everyone. On the way home, I worked up the courage. Jinggen, today is my birthday. He paused. Is it? Then what does Wan Wan want for a present? What I wanted was for him to call me Sunian. Just once. Instead, I smiled. Having you here is the best present. His friends mocked me. Sunian, the whole company knows you're chasing Lu Jingchen. Do you honestly not see what you are to him? I saw it clearly. A stand-jin. But I didn't care. I told myself that, given enough time, he'd eventually see me. Until that night. You finally came back. He was waiting for Jian Wan to come back. Not for me to stay. My friends told me. 3 years, and you're still chasing? Aren't you exhausted? I smiled. Yeah, I'm done chasing, done licking his boots. My family laid down the law. Jian, if I couldn't close the deal, I was coming home for a blind date. A family dinner at the Lu residence. Lu Jingchen's mother held my hand. Wan Wan, you've gotten thinner. Is Jingzhen not taking proper care of you? I smiled and shook my head. He's wonderful to me, Auntie. For 3 years, I'd attended every family dinner. I had the menu, the seating chart, and every one of his mother's favorite conversation topics committed to memory. Mrs. Lu loved pu'er tea. Every visit, I brought a box of her usual brand. She had a bad knee, so I taught myself mock Sebastian. One winter when she caught a chill, I took half a day off work to make her ginger broth. She squeezed my hand and said, Wan Wan is more thoughtful than Jingzhen. She didn't know who I was. She thought I was Jiang Wan. After the dinner ended, Lu Jingchen lit a cigarette in the car. Good performance tonight. He'd said that at least 20 times over 3 years. Before hearing it would make me smile and think, Jen, then someday he'll say, you don't have to perform anymore. Not anymore. I reached up and unclasped the necklace from around my neck, placing it on the center console. At the end of the silver chain, 2 characters were engraved. Jian Jian Jiang. 3 years ago, he'd given me this necklace. I knew full well the name on it wasn't mine, and I still put it on. Wore it for over 1,000 days. Lu Jingchen looked at the necklace, stubbed out his cigarette. Xunyan, what are you doing? Nothing dramatic. The understudy is exiting the stage, Mr. Liu. I pushed open the door and stepped out. Behind me, he said, if you leave, who's going to play the part? That's your problem. Before, when he said things like that, I would have turned back. Not this time. My mother's efficiency was terrifying. I'd barely walked through the front door before she shoved a photo in my face. 6 Jian Wan works in investment. Last name Shin. Not bad. Jian. Looking either. The man in the photo wore slim, gem-framed glasses with a clean, sharp jawline. My mother pressed. Day after tomorrow, afternoon, the tea house on the east side of town. Dress up nice. Got it, got it. Lu Jingzhen's message popped up. He left your necklace in my car. Before, whenever he texted Jane's aunt, no matter what he said, Jinjin, I'd reply instantly. Even at 3 in the morning. Now I glanced at it and swiped the chat away. 3 years, and he still couldn't tell the difference between the necklace I gave you and the necklace you left behind. Or maybe he could tell, he just couldn't be bothered. The tea house. My blind date arrived before me. When I looked up, I froze. I recognized that face from financial magazines. Jianjian Shendu, head of Shen Capital. Lu Jingxin's arch-Jin rival in the business world. He clearly recognized me too. Sun Yan? You know me? Shendu set down his teacup. The woman who's always with Lu Jingxin. Word gets around. I felt my face burn. Word gets around. In other people's eyes, I was probably a joke. 3 years chasing a man, filling in for his ex-Gen girlfriend. 38. Shendu caught my embarrassment and dropped the subject. He got straight to the point. I'm not interested in marriage, but my mother and your mother are card partners. Couldn't exactly say no. What a coincidence. I'm not interested either. He poured a cup of tea and slid it across. But you need someone to get your mother off your back. So do you. We clinked cups. Here's to a successful partnership. The fake boyfriend arrangement went smoothly. Shendu cooperated with my social media posts, had dinner with my mother, and showed up for every holiday right on schedule. But this man was nothing like Lu Jingchen. The second time we ate together, he picked every piece of cilantro out of the dish in front of me. How did you know I don't eat cilantro? Last time you pushed it all to the edge of your plate. I hesitated. In 3 years, every dish at Lu Jingchen's dinners came with cilantro. 'Cause Jihan Wan loved it. I never said a word, afraid he'd think I was being difficult. Every time I swallowed it down, I told myself, it's just cilantro. Deal with it. 3 years of cilantro D&D. Dealt with. A wrong name. Dian dealt with. A necklace engraved with someone else's initials. Jian. Dealt with. Dealt with everything until I realized the only person dealing with anything was me. As meals with Shendu added up, I noticed something. I didn't know what I actually liked to eat. For 3 years, I'd lived according to Jiang Wan's preferences. She drank black coffee. So I drank black coffee. She loves spicy food, so I ordered spicy. She wore warm tones, and my entire closet was filled with orange and caramel. Chinda handed me the menu. You pick. I flipped through it for ages, a little lost. He didn't rush me. After I'd wavered for nearly 3 minutes, he said, "Don't think about what she would want. What do you want to eat?" I blinked. He knew. He could see that I'd spent 3 years living as someone else's shadow. I set down the menu and thought, I want to try the tomato hot pot. Then tomato hot pot it is. Later, I slowly remembered, Tianjin, I don't actually drink black coffee. I like latte. I can't handle much spice, and I look best in blue and white. These things had been buried by my own hand for 3 years. Shendu helped me unearth them. One by one, he didn't do anything deliberate. He simply asked me, every time, "What do you want?" Nobody had ever asked me that question. During work hours, Lu Jingchen called me to his office and said, "Take your necklace back." The chain with Jiang Wan's name had been placed inside a new jewelry box. I didn't reach for it. Mr. Lu, that necklace was for Jiang Wan, not for me. He frowned. You wore it for 3 years, that makes it yours. For those 3 years, the name you called me was hers too. Does that make it mine as well? Lu Jingchen went quiet for several seconds. Sunian Jinden, Mr. Lu, you only call me Sunian at the office. You've never used it in private. He wanted to argue, but the words wouldn't come. I never used to say things like this. I used to be too afraid of making him unhappy. Afraid that if he got unhappy, he wouldn't want me anymore. Now I wasn't afraid. If he didn't want me, Tianjin, fine. After I rejected the necklace, Lu Jingzhen started finding fault with me at work. He pulled a project I'd been managing for 6 months and replaced it with a pile of grunt work. He used to give me tough assignments too, but back then he'd have my back behind the scenes. Now it was pure sabotage. Colleagues noticed. One asked privately, "Sunian, did you get on Mr. Lu's bad side?" I smiled. Probably I was working late until 9. Walking out of the building, a car was parked at the curb, flashing its lights twice. Shendu rolled down his window. "Have you eaten?" "No." "Get in." He took me to a noodle shop that stayed open until dawn. A bowl of hot broth. Noodles later. I finally felt human again. "How did you know I was working late tonight?" "I didn't. I passed by here around this time every day." I looked at him. The Lu Corporation Tower and his company weren't remotely on the same route. An unexpected downpour hit as I was leaving work. No umbrella. I stood under the office entrance waiting for it to pass. Lu Jingzhen's car pulled out of the underground garage and stopped in front of me. His window slid down. He looked at me. "Get in. I'll drive you." "No thanks. Someone's coming for me." The window went up, then back down. "Sunyan, you'd rather stand here in the rain than get in my car?" "I'm not standing in the rain. I'm waiting for someone." His hand rested on the steering wheel, knuckles white. A horn blared behind him before he finally pulled away. The rain went on for another 10 minutes. Shendu's car didn't arrive until then. He pulled up, pushed the passenger door open, then reached into the back seat and handed me a jacket. "How long have you been waiting?" "Not long." He didn't call out my soaking jam wet clothes. He turned the heat up to full and drove in silence the whole way. As we neared my building, he suddenly said, "Next time, if I'm not there yet, just take a cab home. Don't stand outside." A pause. "No matter how late Jen texts, text me when you're home safe." Back when I was chasing Lu Jingchen, I'd send him a message every time I dropped him off in the small hours. "Jen, The end. Did you get home? Okay, stay safe. He never replied. Now someone was saying those words to me. I sat in the car, looking at the rain on the windshield, and felt an unexpected sting behind my eyes. That weekend, Mrs. Liu called. Wen, it's been so long since you visited. Auntie made rib soup for you. I gripped the phone, not knowing how to begin. For 3 years, Mrs. Liu had been genuinely kind to me. She called me by the wrong name, but the warmth was real. This was the part I felt guiltiest about. Auntie, things have been busy. I'll come see you another time. Did Jingchen upset you again? That boy's never been good with words. Don't hold it against him, Wan. The tenderness in her voice wasn't feigned, but that tenderness was directed at Jiang Wan, not Su Nian. If she ever learned the truth, that the person who'd been by her side for 3 years wasn't Zhongwen at all, that her son had been using a Stanjian to deceive her, Jinjian, would she feel sorry for me? Or would she see me as part of the lie? I honestly couldn't say. Auntie, I'll come by. After I hung up, I sat for a long time. Not everything in those 3 years had been fake, but the parts that were real, Gin those were the ones that hurt the most. After work, Shendu's car was parked boldly right in front of the Lu Corporation tower. I pulled open the door and slid in. Aren't you worried Lu Jingjin will see? He started the engine. Good, let him. At the restaurant, he pulled out my chair. Sunyan. Nothing. Just wanted to say your name. I froze. Having someone call me by my real name, Jen, for 3 years, that had been a luxury. Now it was the most ordinary thing in the world. Lu Jingshan started reaching out. No more monosyllables. Handle this today. There's a dinner next week. Come. Are you free tonight? For 3 years, his messages had consisted entirely of, okay, and figure it out. I'd send him 100 texts. He'd reply with 3 characters. I remembered once, at 2 in the morning, sending him a long message telling him I missed him. He'd replied the next day at noon with a single meh. I stared at that min and grinned for half an hour. I screenshotted it and sent it to my best friend saying, "Look," he replied. In hindsight, that was genuinely pitiful. Now he was sending 3 messages a day. I didn't reply to a single one. Until he sent, "Tunian, are you seeing Shendu?" He'd finally gotten my name right. Too bad it was too late. Friday afternoon. An unknown number. Sunyan, I'm downstairs. Come out. Let's talk. Lu Jingjin. I walked to the window and looked down. A black Maybach sat across the entrance, parked like it owned the street. Lu Jingjin. I'm at work. Then I'll wait until you're off. He hung up. 2 o'clock, Jianjian. He was there. 4 o'clock, Jianjian. Still there. A colleague wandered over, curious. Whose Maybach has been sitting out there all afternoon? Nice ride. 6 o'clock. I finished what I was working on and went downstairs. Lu Jingjin leaned against the car, cigarette butts scattered around his feet. He saw me and stubbed out the last one. Get in. I didn't. He walked around and stood in front of me. Sunyan, do you really think I can't win you back? Lu Jingjin, you're not chasing me. You're just not used to this. What does that mean? For 3 years, I orbited around you. Now that I've stopped, you're uncomfortable. That's not love. That's withdrawal. His expression locked up. Are you going to lecture me on what love is? He stared at me for a long time, like he was truly seeing me for the first time. Too bad. The look came too late. 3 years ago. 简简, even 1 year ago. 简简, I would have crumbled. I walked past him and got into the car behind his. Shendu's car. He didn't ask questions, just turned the key and pulled away. The song playing was the one I'd casually mentioned liking the week before. In the rearview mirror, Lu Jingshen stood rooted to the spot. Someone behind him leaned on their horn, wanting him to move his car. He didn't move. Shendu took me to an industry gala. He introduced me. My girlfriend, Sunyan. Before, when Lu Jingshen brought me to events like this, people would ask, and he'd say, Jiang Wan, my girlfriend. The name was fake. The girlfriend was fake. Only my smile was real. I used to think that if I kept pretending long enough, the lie would become truth. It didn't. Someone sidled up during the event. Mr. Shen, did you steal her right out from under Lu Jingshen? Shendu gave a quiet laugh. Some things, Tianjie, when one person doesn't appreciate them, another one will. Half an hour later, Lu Jingchen showed up at the banquet hall entrance, face like thunder. He walked straight toward me. Shendu stepped between us. Mr. Lu, this is my event. Lu Jingchen didn't even glance at him. He looked past Shendu's shoulder, eyes locked on mine. Sunian, come outside. There's nothing to talk about. 3 years. You're just gonna walk away? Before, that kind of line would have made me cave. Not anymore, Shendu scoffed. Mr. Lu, in 3 years you never once called her by her real name, and now you want to talk about 3 years. Lu Jingchen's fist clenched, but in a room full of people, he couldn't swing. He looked at me. Sunian, I admit I handled things badly before. Give me a chance. I looked at him. 3 years ago, the same face, the same brows and eyes. The difference was that 3 years ago, every time he smiled at me, he was looking at Jianwen's shadow. He didn't know what color I liked, didn't know what I was allergic to, didn't know that after every business dinner I attended with him, my stomach ached for hours. Didn't know that behind every smile I gave him, I was silently counting how many times he'd called me by the wrong name. He knew nothing, yet here he was, asking for a chance. I shook my head. Lu Jingzhen, you don't want me. You want a Jiangwan who'll never leave. He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. I stepped around him and walked away. A weekend at the mall, Shendu and I were browsing a homeware shop, picking out mugs for him. He held up 2. Tianjian, 1 deep blue, 1 white. Which one? The white one. He put both in the basket. You're not going to ask why I picked white? No, you picked it. That's enough. Before, whenever Lu Jingchen took me shopping, every choice defaulted to Zhang Wan's taste. She liked warm tones, so the apartment was all warm tones. She liked fabric sofas, so I sat on a fabric sofa for 3 years. With Shendu, I was relearning what my own preferences were. At the register, Shendu wiped a dot of milk tea from the corner of my mouth with a napkin. The gesture was natural, like he'd done it 100 times. Before I could react, I caught a figure on the escalator in my peripheral vision. Lu Jingzhen. He stood on the moving steps, watching us. The escalator carried him up to the 2nd floor. He didn't stop, didn't approach. He turned and walked away. I met Bai Shan for drinks. Sel. She was my college roommate. She'd watched me play stand-in for 3 years and had tried to talk sense into me more times than I could count. Now that I'd finally come to my senses, she practically wanted to set off fireworks. A toast to you, Comrade Sunyan. You finally found your brain. We clinked glasses. Bai Shan got philosophical. You know what scared me most these past 3 years? Your middle Jin of Jin the Jin night phone calls. Every time you said, he called me Wan Wan today, but he smiled while he said it, I knew you just manufactured another excuse to keep going. I said nothing. She slumped on the table. Okay, enough about him. This Shendu Dainzian, what's his deal? Are you too real or are you still acting? Started out as acting. And now, I took a sip of wine and didn't answer. Baishan slapped the table. Oh my God, you have feelings for him. Keep your voice down. What's good about him? Tell me. I thought about it. He remembers I don't eat cilantro. He goes out of his way to pick me up every day. When he says my name, he looks me in the eye. Jian, he's not looking through me at someone else. On rainy days, he brings me a jacket. When I don't know what I want to drink, he waits for me to figure it out instead of deciding for me. Bai Shan sighed. Sunyan, everything you just described is what any decent man should do. Lu Jingjin, that son of a bitch, just set your bar so low it was underground. I smiled and didn't argue. Before, on the rare occasions Lu Jingjin showed me even basic courtesy. Tianjin like blocking a toast for me at a dinner, or dropping me off on his way home. Tianjin, I'd ride that high for days. Now I realized those gestures didn't even qualify as baseline. The fact that being treated like a person felt like a privilege told me just how terrible things had really been. Bai Shan downed a big gulp. Fine. Shendu has my approval. But if you ever relapse and crawl back, I will personally break your legs. Relax. Not happening. I'd never been more serious about anything in my life. Jiang Wen came back to China. The news traveled from the front desk. Lu's traveled from the front desk. Better, she walked into the Lu Corporation to see Lu Jingchen, wearing an ivory dress, long hair flowing, her smile soft and gentle. The receptionist secretly texted me. Sunian, come quick. Tenzin, there's a woman in the hallway who looks just like you. I set down my work and stepped out. We met face to face. She studied me for a moment, then froze. We did look remarkably alike. Are you one of Jingchen's colleagues? I am. Then, Jinjin, do you know who I am? I smiled. Mrs. Zhang, I've heard a lot about you. The thing she didn't know, I had no obligation to tell her. For 3 years, every time I looked in a mirror, I'd wonder Jingjian, is he seeing me? Or was he looking through me to see her? The answer had been crystal clear since the night he said, "You finally came back." During the lunch break, Lu Jingjin stopped me. Zhongguan is back. I know. He seemed to want to say something but couldn't figure out how. So I said it for him. You can be with her openly now. Congratulations. Lu Jingjin tugged irritably at his tie. Sunian, I don't want to be with her. Then who do you want to be with? You. I looked into his eyes. Lu Jingcheng, are you sure that when you look at me, you're seeing Sunian and not another version of Jiang Wan? He couldn't answer. His lips moved twice, trying to say, of course it's you. But the words caught in his throat and wouldn't come. Because he wasn't sure. He wasn't even sure when he'd started caring about me. Was it after I stopped chasing him? Or after Shendu appeared? If I'd never stopped pursuing him, would he have bothered to care at all? I used to be too afraid to ask that question. Afraid the answer would be too cruel. Now I'd asked, and he couldn't answer. Worse than cruelty, Tiantian even he didn't know. Jiangwan invited me for coffee. She was straightforward. Jingjin and I were over before I left the country. I only found out after I came back that he'd found someone who looks like me. Sunian, I'm sorry. It's not your fault, she sighed. You deserve someone who gets your name right. Coming from her mouth, the words were both deeply ironic and deeply clear. That evening, Shendu came to pick me up. Car was quiet. Then he said, "You mentioned a Japanese restaurant you wanted to try." I made a reservation. I turned to look at him. Before, I used to research what Lu Jingshan liked to eat. Every time I ordered, I picked what suited his palate. Nobody had ever asked what I wanted. Shendu. Say my name. He glanced over. Sunyan. I didn't say anything, but I smiled. I placed my resignation letter on Lu Jingchen's desk. He read it, and his expression collapsed by degrees. "Sunyan, you've been here 3 years. Is this all for Shendu?" "It's not for Shendu, it's for me." "What's the difference?" "The difference is that as long as I'm in this building, I'll always be the woman next to Lu Jingshan. I want people to say Sunyan when they talk about me." Lu Jingjin crumpled the letter into a ball and tossed it in the wastebasket. Denied. I watched his little display without anger. I'd expected it. That's why I prepared 2 copies. The second one went to HR. When Lu Jingchen found out, he smashed the mug on his desk. His secretary stammered. "Mr. Lu," Sunian said. Jan, business goes through proper channels and there's no personal business to discuss." He stared at the crumpled resignation letter on his desk for a long time. 3 years ago, when Sunian first joined the company, she'd sat in the same chair across this desk. She'd smiled and said, "Nice to meet you, Mr. Lu. I'll work really hard." Her eyes had been so bright, they practically glowed. Now those same eyes looked at him with no light at all. While the resignation was still being processed, Lu Jingchen tried a different approach. "He went to my mother. She didn't know him. I'd never mentioned Lu Jingshen at home. Jin, I'd only said my love life was a mess." My mother hadn't pressed for details and had gone straight to arranging blind dates. So when I was called home for dinner that weekend and found a strange man sitting on the couch with my mother cheerfully serving tea beside him, 2 boxes of premium tea and a crate of imported fruit sat on the table. Lu Jingjin stood when he saw me. "Auntie, Sunian's home." My mother beamed and nudged me forward. "This young man says he's your boss. Came all this way to see you." I almost broke character. My mother headed to the kitchen to add another dish. The living room was just the 2 of us. "Lu Jingchen, what are you doing here?" "Oh, you don't answer my calls. You don't respond to my messages. You won't let me see you. What else am I supposed to do?" "You could do nothing." He gave a bitter laugh. "Sunyan, has it occurred to you that I might actually regret it?" "Regret what? Not calling me by my name or losing the stand Jan in with no one left to play the part. That shut him up. My mother came out with a new dish, sensed the wrong atmosphere, and set the plate down." "What happened?" I looked at Lu Jingchen. "Mom, he's not some boss. He's the one I told you about. Din's a man who called me by someone else's name for 3 years. My mother's smile vanished. She turned and looked Lu Jingchen up and down. Then she pushed the tea and fruit across the table toward him. "Take these with you. We don't accept gifts." Lu Jingchen walked out expressionless. My mother closed the door, turned to me, and her eyes went red. "Him? The one you wouldn't name?" "Yes." She gripped my hand. "My silly girl. You loved someone so much, you lost yourself in the process." "Mom," Jin, "if that Chen fellow ever dares treat you the same way, I'll take a knife to his door." I laughed, resting my head on her shoulder. 1 in the morning, My phone rang. Lu Jingjin. I didn't answer. It rang 3 times. Jindu, roused from sleep, picked up my phone, checked the caller ID and answered. She's sleeping. Silence on the other end for a few seconds. Lu Jingjin's voice, laced with alcohol. Shendu, what the hell gives you the right to answer her phone? The fact that her phone is right next to me. Another stretch of silence. Then Lu Jingjin laughed. Jingjin short, harsh, like he was cursing himself. Was I really that much of a bastard before? Shendu didn't answer. He hung up, switched the phone to silent, and set it back on the nightstand. I was actually awake. I'd heard everything. Shendu lay back down, reached over, and pulled me into his arms. The thing between me and Shendu had quietly shifted from fake to something I couldn't quite name. One night, I was curled up on his couch, drifting off during a movie. Shendu draped a blanket over me. If you're tired, go sleep in the bed. I'm not tired. I want to see how it ends. It ends with them getting together. Spoiler. He laughed softly, then sat down beside me. Half Jen asleep. I leaned against his shoulder. Shendu, what are we? He looked down at me. When do I get an official title? Before, I'd chased Lu Jingshan with every ounce of desperate, undignified energy I had. Birthday surprises, packed suitcases, iredent mayhem, doesn't mayhem, and pestignated driving. Jinjan, every good thing I did was handed over on a silver platter. Shendu had never asked me to do a single thing. And yet, I found myself wanting to do things for him. The feeling was nothing like chasing Lu Jingshan. Chasing Lu Jingshan was cramming myself into his world by force. Tianjin, and squeezing harder when I didn't fit. Being with Shendu felt like the most natural thing in the world. I said, now. Lu Jingshan cornered Shendu in a parking garage. She's mine. Shendu adjusted his cuff. Does a stand jammed in really count as yours? Lu Jingshan swung. Shendu didn't dodge. His lips split. He wiped the blood with the back of his hand. Done? Lu Jingshan grabbed his collar. You knew damn well she was Enjing. Was what your stand-in? Your backup plan? The woman whose name you got wrong for 3 straight years? Shendu pushed him off. I arrived to find them both roughed up. I walked over and stood in front of Shendu. Lu Jingshan watched me take my position, and slowly, his grip on Shendu's collar loosened. His eyes changed. Lu Jingshan, enough. He looked at me, shielding Shendu, and his eyes reddened. Sunyan, I know I was terrible before, but I'm serious now. You're serious too late. Give me, Dan, 3 years, over 1,000 days. You didn't use a single one. He fell silent. What you see when you look at me isn't me. It's your obsession with Zhongwan. Now that the obsession has faded, all you have left is the sting of losing something you thought was yours. Lu Jingshan stepped back, his voice cracking. Then from now on, I'll Zhenjin. Don't bother. Before, a single soft word from him would have kept me happy all day. Now nothing, he said, could reach me. I took Shendu's hand and walked away. In the car, Shendu didn't speak for a long time. Dabbed at the blood on his lip. Does it hurt? No. Liar. He smiled faintly and caught my hand. Sunyan, there's something I never told you. I knew you before Lu Jingjin did. I stared. 4 years ago. Some event you were giving a presentation on stage. Lots of people in the room, but your delivery was the sharpest. You remember that? You wore a pink jacket. Your hair was up. When you got passionate, you'd clench your fist. He looked at me. I wanted to know you then, but then you joined the Lu Corporation and became the woman at Lu Jingshan's side. So this blind date, me seizing the opportunity, 简简 also true. I pinched him. Shendu, you're even more calculating than I am. Had to be. Otherwise, I'd have lost you. I'd spent 100% of my energy chasing Lu Jingchen. It turned out someone had spent 4 years waiting for me to stop. Shendu brought me home for dinner. His mother held my hand and looked me over. Xiaoshen has been mentioning a girl for years. I thought he'd made her up. Jianjian, this boy has never shown interest in women. I glanced at Shendu. He was serving himself from a dish, the tips of his ears bright red. His mother continued. Last month, he suddenly said he wanted a blind date, and he specified who. I asked him why, and, he said, Tintin. Mom, Shendu cut her off. He said he'd waited too long. If he didn't make a move now, it'd be too late. Shendu set down his chopsticks, bent over his soup bowl, and went silent. Under the table, I squeezed his hand. He didn't look at me, but his fingers tightened around mine. The resignation finally went through. On my last day, Lu Jingchen was waiting outside the building. He wasn't aggressive this time. He leaned against his car and held out a bag. Everything you left at my place over the past 3 years, and the necklace. I glanced inside. The engraving at the end of the chain had been ground away. I had it removed. I wanted to engrave your name, but I was afraid you wouldn't take it. I placed the necklace back in the bag and handed it to him. Keep it. Don't engrave anything. He nodded. After a long silence, he said, Shendu Jianjian, he's reserved, stubborn, but he doesn't hold back when it comes to someone he's committed to. How do you know? 5 years as rivals. I know exactly what kind of man he is. I couldn't help but laugh. He tugged one corner of his mouth, but the smile didn't reach his eyes. Sunyan, take care of yourself. He got in and drove away. 3 years ago, on the way to my first family dinner at the Liu estate, it had been the same car. I'd sat in the passenger seat, palms slick with sweat, silently rehearsing Mrs. Liu's preferences, Jiang Wan's catchphrases, every detail to get right. He'd said offhandedly from beside me, Relax, just act the part. Back then, I'd believed that if I kept acting long enough, it would become real. Now he was driving away. Before, every time he left, I'd stand in place and watch his car disappear. This time, I turned away first. One night late, I was nestled in Shendu's arms, half chant asleep. I suddenly remembered a question I'd never asked. Shendu, you waited 4 years. Why didn't you come find me sooner? His fingers threaded through my hair. Because back then, all you could see was Lu Jingchen. So you just waited? I wasn't waiting for you to look back. I was waiting for the day you decided to walk away on your own. I buried my face in the curve of his neck. Shendu, you are really, truly annoying. He laughed and drew his arms tighter. I know. The end.